A few days ago, after finishing my weathering with you small talk, I went looking deep into my external hard drive, not for porn, but for old videos. Because if you aren't aware, the ones available on this channel right now aren't all the ones that I have done. I had many others in my original channel, but unfortunately that channel got deleted because copyright, fair use, and my own stupidity by signing my name with my artistic name and then changing it back for no apparent reason. Anyway, so a good portion of those videos are gone. I failed to save them, but others survived. Since around 2016-17, I also started uploading stuff to VidMe, a video sharing website that is currently dead. And after YouTube killed that other channel, I decided to save as many material as I could. And now, since I am trying to create consistency in my upload schedule, like at least one video a week, more if I can, I had an idea. Since I want some of those videos back online, why don't I just do that? They aren't perfect, but I'm proud of them and want to have them available in my current channel. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'll release an older video in between newer ones I'm currently working on. And don't worry, I'll also put something in the thumbnails to identify that video as an old one. Because although I like them, the sound and image quality is far inferior to what I have now. And you don't have to watch videos I did so far back as 2016 if you don't want to. Anyway, enjoy!
Gay, I'm really gay, I'm truly very gay. You caught me, I'm a lesbian, and I like it that way.
What's up, people? So last weekend I went to see Wonder Woman, because despite every failure DC has released upon the world, I still like to watch and enjoy these movies, and Wonder Woman was no different. It was just surprising to see the amount of positive reviews and such high scores on websites like Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic, because Wonder Woman was not really that good. I don't understand why this film is being praised as a salvation to the DC extended universe. It's better than the last two films they had, and probably easier to enjoy than Man of Steel, but it's not something I would call great. So let's talk about Wonder Woman, and just a heads up, this is one of those films that in order for me to criticize it, I need to talk about specific things that happen, so spoilers will be present. If you don't want to hear them and just want to know my rating, then skip to this point in the review. Let's go! So even before the film starts, we already see that DC is changing things, because before the DC logo appears, we get this weird animation in comic book style with several DC characters making an appearance, many of whom I have no fucking clue who they are. And since this is the first film I'm seeing this, and the last DC film I watched was the Lego Batman film earlier this year, I can only assume that this is some sort of copy of the Marvel intro that they now put in their films. It was pretty pathetic, but nothing terrible. And then the film starts, with Diana, or Wonder Woman, I'm probably gonna call her by what I think it's easier to say. Diana is in Paris, near the Louvre Museum, and then this black van with Wayne Enterprises written on the side shows up, and if that wasn't comic booky enough, the guards inside the van retrieve a suitcase that was secure in the back of the van, and the suitcase also had the Wayne Enterprises logo. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? What's the point of having the logo in the suitcase except to make fanboys giggle because Batman? And it's not like the suitcase was carrying something extremely important or dangerous, it was just a photograph. And if it had been something of value, you really think that the best way to secure it is by branding the case with the logo that's essentially saying to everyone who sees it, I'm probably worth something. Steal me! As if it wasn't bad enough to see that shit in the King Kong movie we had a few months ago, I had to watch it again, in a film that was actually trying to be something other than shit. They deliver the case to Diana, she opens and we see the photograph from BVS, and then the actual story starts. This film is a story within a story, which is the same as saying it's basically worthless within the DC extended universe. The few elements of world building the film introduces are killed off by the end, and there's nothing here that suggests this story had any real impact with the others. It's a one and done kind of deal, and that's okay if it happened to be good, but it's not. So let's talk about the film. It really starts in Themyscira, the home to the Amazons, and since Themyscira is complicated to pronounce, I'm just gonna call it home. It's easier. In home, we witness throughout the first 15 minutes before Chris Pine shows up, Diana's entire childhood. I'm gonna give you the cliff notes. She's the only child in the island since there are no men there, and those dudes are kinda needed for reproduction. As a kid, she's portrayed by someone who isn't an actress, so that was a brave choice by the casting director. Picking someone who can't act to act is always lovely. She smiles a lot, so I guess that works out. Everything that happens in this part of the film is quickly evaporating from my head because there was nothing extraordinary or interesting about it. There's a sequence with little Diana running around home, and I guess this is when the filmmakers wanted the audience to see how everything in home works. It was all very boring. All they do is either training to become better warriors or just walk around. I think I saw a market. I think Diana passed through a market while running, so I guess it's either fighting or walking around the market. Seems neat. After the market, she reaches a place where she has a perfect view to see all the Amazons practicing, and here is when we get a sample of how the action is going to be. Slow motion combined with multiple cuts from different angles and several jumps. That's basically the Amazons fighting style, just jumping and jumping and jumping. There was even a moment when Wonder Woman jumped so high that she became a missile and exploded part of a building with her impact. Which was hilarious since this only happened once, and she entered a lot of different buildings using the same technique. I guess those jumps weren't that powerful. A few seconds later, Diana's babysitter sees her and Diana runs away again. But this time she runs towards the edge of a cliff and jumps. Not sure if she was trying to commit suicide or just really wanted to swim, but she definitely jumped. And the green screen while she's falling isn't just terrible. It makes you wonder if the film had the same budget as a Flash TV show. It was really bad. Just atrocious. Before she reached the sea, her mother, the Queen of the Amazons, picked her up and told her to stop scaring babysitters away. Then we have this back and forth with Diana wanting to learn how to fight, but her mother says no because she's still a child and she has to live a child's life and blah blah blah. The Queen's sister tells her she could teach Diana just a few things, but she still gets denied. That's the whole extent of the characterization and development given to the Queen and her sister. The Queen's entire job is to deliver not so subtle lines about the truth of Diana's origins. She's the one, sorry Neo, and to stop her from not living her childhood, except when she's running and jumping off cliffs. Then she intervenes. And Claire Underwood isn't even a character. She's just a stereotype of the cool mentor that teaches the protagonist stuff. Oh, and when she dies, she's immediately forgotten. Later, when the Queen is preparing Diana to sleep, for some reason she lays out a paragraph of exposition. And this one really pissed me off, because it's not that it was something I didn't want to hear, it's that the way they executed the scene, it was so blatantly obvious that the only reason the Queen said how Diana was created from clay and then brought alive by Zeus was for the audience to know. And to make matters even worse, this was something they repeat over and over throughout the film. Later, when she's living with Steve on the boat, she tells him her origins, and there the moment doesn't come off like exposition, it's just two people getting to know each other. So the amount of times they repeat this same shit just made me think that maybe she wasn't created like that at all, and that whole twist in the third act when she learns she's Zeus's daughter and the real weapon against Ares felt like someone delivered the punchline to a joke they had already told. It was pointless, redundant, and idiotic, but still worthy of a 93 something on Horse Vegetables. Seems fair. After that, the Queen delivers more paragraphs of exposition, only that this time it's accompanied by strange animation. I say strange because it seemed picked from those books that have things coming out of them, and in this animation we learn a lot of bullshit. I say bullshit because there's no way Ares was able to single-handed kill off all the gods. The animation doesn't say how many gods besides the Olympians there are, and they don't even say if Ares managed to kill Hades, someone who's not an Olympian, but someone who should have enough juice to kill off Ares. All they say is that he killed all the gods before Zeus manages to wound him. Zeus, who defeated the Titans, couldn't even defeat his own son? Yeah, sure. Later, Diana learns about the only weapon that can kill Ares, the sword God Killer, and for some reason when Diana asks who will wield it, her mother keeps saying, not you, not you. Again, the subtlety is off the charts with this film. Diana grows up and the Queen finds out that her sister has been training her daughter in secret. They have what was supposed to be an argument, but the Queen gives up right away and allows the training to continue. Then we flash forward and Diana is finally portrayed by someone who can act. There's this fight between Diana and her aunt, and despite looking like Diana is gonna lose, she manages to win because she's the main character, and her magic bracelets. And this was so poorly executed that even a 6-year-old could see it coming.
Diana is losing the fight, but at the very last second she reveals some secret ability that will win her the fight and frighten everyone who's watching.
And that's exactly how it happens. It's like nobody in this film cared enough to make it their own. Diana runs away, and that's right about when Steve shows up, and we see this jump. But for some reason in the actual film, the jump is presented with more green screen, and the end result brings me back to the question of how much money did they spend on the visual effects. The CGI goes from bad to worse very quickly. Diana saves Steve, bringing him to the beach, and we finally get a moment that doesn't completely suck. Pretty much all the time spent with Diana and Steve are what prevent this film from being complete shit. Diana's naivete and bravado in doing what she believes to be the right thing, combined with Chris Pine's natural charm that he brings to his character, who's essentially Steve Rogers from Marvel, this combination created a likable duo for people to root for. And if that's all you want out of a film, then you'll be pleased with Wonder Woman. I, however, prefer when a film has something more to offer than just two likable leads, like a great plot, or bystanders that do more than just blending into the background like extras, and character development that doesn't seem stereotypical from films of the genre. I prefer to call a movie great or fantastic
Honor of Wonder Woman, which was fantastic,
when I'm certain that's the case and I can easily back it up with real arguments.
Wonder Woman is one of those films that, like Dark Knight and like Logan, transcends the genre. Transcends the genre.
Wonder Woman is the type of film where the argument for mediocrity is spelled out in the first 10 minutes.
Hello, Mother. How are you today?
I honest to God do not understand why people are calling Wonder Woman great, or better than the others, because it didn't try to tie into the cinematic universe the film is supposed to be in. So now we should praise art because it tried to do less and still failed? The only thing in Wonder Woman that should be praised when comparing to BVS or Suicide Squad is the fact that it's not an incoherent mess or something shit out of Lucifer's asshole. But I digress. After she talks with Steve, the Amazons show up alongside the people that were following him. It turns out that the Amazons' home isn't protected by some magical wall or veil that only allows certain people to get in. Both Steve and the Germans get in by chance. The only protection against the outside world is an illusion and some fog. Turns out the Amazon's magic is as strong as the psychic abilities from the mutants of Beneath the Planet of the Apes. The two sides fight. The action varies from terrible to boring, because honestly it's getting extremely tiring to see someone swinging a sword against someone else and the blood is not there. But here it's extra infuriating because not only there's no blood, the way the shots are framed suggests that the blood could be there, just hidden off screen. Well, isn't that lovely? That's gonna do wonders for my OCD. In that fight we learn that the Germans aren't really impressed with magic, something that's gonna be constant throughout the film, where we have characters doing impossible feats and people just act like it's not really that interesting. The war is much more important than some woman with godly powers that could kill everyone on Earth. And we also learn that the Amazons can be easily wounded or even killed with bullets. Maybe Zeus's intentions weren't for them to help humanity, but for humanity to use them as target practice until they got good enough to kill Ares. Maybe that's why he created them. Claire Underwood dies while protecting Diana, and her reaction to her aunt's death was really emotional and powerful. For about 3 seconds, then it's back to normal. I mean seriously, once the attention shifts from Claire to Steve, nobody ever brings her up again. Her death has zero impact on the rest of the film, since everything that happens is gonna be triggered by Steve. This entire sequence was worthless. There was no skill in the action scenes, no clever or interesting frames, just people shooting and hitting each other with props. Later, after the Queen bans our protagonist from doing something she's obviously going to do anyways, we get this cool back and forth between Diana and Steve. He was taking a bath, and once he got up, naked, Diana walks in. They talk, and she asks him, "What's that?" He thinks she's referring to his dick, but then he realizes she's referring to the watch next to his clothes. The moment was honestly funny, but it wasn't executed that well. For starters, they could have played around with the frames, so we get she's referring to the clock and not the cock at the same time he does. Then the scene didn't need to solely rely on the strength of the performances. The director could have shown some creativity when presenting a comedic scene, but they didn't because the formula they use doesn't recognize the word creativity. After that, a couple of forgettable scenes happen. Diana comes back and asks Steve to bring her to the war in exchange for her to show him a way out. And here is when I thought she was gonna show him a secret passage from her home to his world. like when Loki showed to Thor that way out in the second Boar film. But nope, apparently what she meant by showing a way out of there was to do the exact same thing he did to get in, but in reverse, and this time they go by boat instead of plane. It's the equivalent of opening a door, entering a room, and then someone there tells you they will show you a way out of their room, and this is by reopening the door and leaving, doing the exact same shit but in reverse. 93 on Rotten Tomatoes. Everything that happens between the moment they leave Themyscira and it cuts to the villains of the film isn't very interesting to talk about, either because it was actually good, like seeing Diana asking Steve about the war, or it was just unappealing and standard, like the color palette once they got to London. I get that they were trying to show the contrast between London and home, but it wasn't enough. Everything in Europe still looks dour and depressing and ugly. If they really wanted to contrast the difference between the two places, Themyscira should have looked like Mad Max Fury Road, with beautiful, vivid colors, while London should have looked like Sicario, something more realistic and gritty, and less ugly. From a visual standpoint, this film is extremely boring. The only remarkable thing about it is the fact that it looks 1,000 times better than Suicide Squad. But there's nothing breathtaking about that. Just like there's nothing breathtaking about the villains. All the antagonists are a joke. This guy who we think is Ares is working with the chick with the mask to make a super poison. That's her job. Steve managed to steal her book of formulas before he got to Themyscira, and then Mask Lady says she can create a super poison. So this guy tells her just how much he believes in her and not her book. In return for the compliment, she gives him some bull crack so he can regain his strength. He sniffs it, gains super strength for a few seconds, then some weird breeze appears all of a sudden in a closed room, and one of the papers starts moving towards her. She picks it up, opens, reads it, and comes to the conclusion that she didn't need the book after all. What she really needed was for someone to tell her just how smart she is at designing poisons that kill hundreds of people, and some light breeze. The next relevant part comes when Wonder Woman enters the trenches. Besides the obvious green screen in the background, what happens next is kinda stupid. The Marvel kind of stupid. Because afterwards, Diana keeps getting hit with machine gun fire and whatnot, trying to put the attention all on herself, and the way she defends it is by using her shield. And as you can see, the shield doesn't protect her entire body. From the waist down, she's completely vulnerable. And we saw back at the beach that Diana could be wounded. But you see, the Germans never aim at her legs or the vulnerable parts. They focus all their firepower on the shield. Now, does that sound similar to something that might have happened in a Marvel movie? Maybe. After the trenches, the next sequence is all about freeing a small village from German control, and this is when the CGI goes from just bad or cheap to cartoon. Gal Gadot is completely replaced with the CGI equivalent, and nothing on screen seems real. It's all terrible 19-something graphics. I can't stress enough how awful the visual effects are in this film. The scenes that follow are quite nice and welcoming. This is of course after Wonder Woman turns into a missile and destroys the top part of a church. Then the film keeps going, but so does my memory, so let's just skip to the end. When Diana confronts the man she believes to be Ares, she kills him, and then we have the best moment of not just this film, but of the entire genre since The Dark Knight. Diana sees that nothing changed with Ares' death. German soldiers keep loading bombs into the planes and following the orders they were given. Steve shows up and tells her that sometimes there isn't one boss to defeat and things end happily ever after. Sometimes men are good, sometimes men are bad. And that was fantastic. By that point in the film, I was almost turned around and was even prepared to give it a 6 out of 10 or something like that and call it a good film. But then the film says, fuck you, and the real Ares shows up. That's what the people who created this film thought it would be better than a mature, unique ending. We have to sit through God of War, and they don't even give us the controls for the game. Bastards. Eventually, it ends with Diana realizing she was the weapon all along. Turns out her origin story, the one they keep mentioning every other chance they got, was fake. Oh no, who could have seen that coming? Nobody. The film ends with Diana thanking Bruce Wayne for the photograph, pretty much summarizing my thoughts of the entire film, that it was pointless. I like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, she was fantastic. Chris Pine as Steve was fine, but everything else was shit. The score, soundtrack was useless. Nothing is memorable, it's just there. It's almost like they saw how much people loved the Wonder Woman theme from BVS, created weaker clones of it, and sprinkled them throughout the film. To be perfectly honest, I don't even remember what the music sounded like. I guess it blended so perfectly with the background that I didn't even notice it. I'm giving Wonder Woman a 4 out of 10. From a technical stance, this film is barely competent, but from a creative outlook, it's just plain boring and cliche. I really don't understand the praise the film is getting. Unlike other films I don't like that get praise, like Inception or Boyhood, there at least I see the reasons to praise it, like ambition and vision. Here, it's just another superhero film, and not a very good one. Anyway, thanks for watching, hope you like it, comment below, down below, leave a like for the YouTube algorithm, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!